What does it mean for college football as a whole that the Big Ten is back?
Well, I think, good morning, guys. I think it's big. I mean, having done this since whenever we started, I can't remember if it was late August or September. You know, I think the rest of the college football world that's been playing is at week 8. But to be candid, you know, traveling around the country and doing college game day, and it's not been our traditional college game day, to say the least, you know, with our fans and signs and kind of the craziness that's associated with that show. And I've just felt, as a fan, you know, I've called games with Clemson and a lot of SEC teams, but it just does feel like the sport has had one foot in, one foot out a little bit without the Big Ten and some of those big brands not playing on Saturdays. So with that in mind, for me anyway, I do feel like this is big. You know, we finally gotten to October 24th, and eventually we'll get to November 7th, and we'll get the Pac-12 brands back involved. But we've made the most of it at this point. Everybody, I think, in the sport is trying. But getting Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Wisconsin and all these brands back playing, I think, is exciting.
Kirk Herbstreit joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gas Line. Big Boss, now that you're looking at the Big Ten coming back, how do you feel, Kirk, that the Big Ten handled everything?
You know, I think you and I talked maybe about a month ago about that, and you know, I think that I don't want to speak for Kevin Warren, but you know, I think they had to do what they had to do at the time. I think a lot of us looked at it like it was a little bit premature to pull the plug when they did, with the testing protocols that were changing rapidly. And I think at the end of the day, Dr. Jim Borchers, who's from Ohio State, had a lot to do with talking to the chancellors and the presidents about kind of the new approach that the Big Ten was willing to focus on. And I think at that point they felt satisfied that they could move forward. But I think a lot of people thought, man, why wouldn't they have just done that in the first place, as opposed to needing Dr. Borchers and others to kind of come in and save the day. So it's easy to look back at things, hindsight being 20/20. I think Kevin Warren, who was put in a very tough spot, I think I just heard Locke saying that when I came on, you know, unprecedented times. You know, here he walks right in. He's just trying to get familiar with his office, and he gets this worldwide pandemic, and he's got to try to make a decision of what he wants to do. And I think he took a lot of heat, but I think he can only do what his presidents and chancellors allowed him to do. And you know, there were some hot spots regarding the virus, a little bit more extreme than others within the Big Ten footprint. So they ultimately got it back. We have a start date. And, you know, you guys know what's different with the Big Ten is these players are testing daily. And, you know, like what Nick Saban went through last week, he tested positive, and then it ended up being a false positive. He went through 3 or 4 other tests after that. And you guys saw him on the sidelines, and I asked some doctors within the Big Ten about that, and they said, yeah, we don't have that policy. If you test positive, and even if it's a false positive, if you test positive, you're done 3 weeks. And so that's something to keep in mind. It's kind of a tightrope, you know, the very small margin of error for these players and coaches. So if anybody does test positive, they will not have that benefit of, well, maybe it was a false positive. Can I test again? You're out. You're out for 3 weeks. So that's part of what they had to do in order for the presidents and chancellors to green light this. But that's something to keep in mind as you watch Big Ten play. You know, you're one positive test away of Justin Fields or whoever from being out for 3 weeks on a very short season to begin with.
Herbie, outside Buckeye Nation, who are the other legit contenders that can compete for the Big Ten?
Yeah. I mean, I think Penn State, James Franklin's done a really good job. I know he's lost some players, but I think he's shown staying power, you know, despite losing marquee players like Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley. You know, he's proven through recruiting and development to be able to plug in new players. So, you know, Ohio State plays Penn State next week on the 31st. That'll be an interesting test for both those teams. But I think Penn State's always a team that's up there. Yeah, you guys know how it is with Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. You know, people talk about what he's not been able to accomplish. I was on a Zoom with Coach yesterday and with his coordinators, and they're quietly very optimistic about Joe Milton, their new quarterback. I don't know if you guys have seen this guy play, but he'll get unveiled to the country on Saturday night. He's about 6'5", 245-pound guy that runs a 4.6. And Josh Gaddis likes to spread people out. They got 4 backs that could play at a lot of places. The big question with them is, outside of Ronnie Bell at receiver, who has some experience, they're breaking in an entire new group of receivers. So it'll be exciting to kind of see that group of young players and see now that they get their chance to step up. So, but they're right there. I've always felt that Michigan's, with Harbaugh, they've just been a quarterback away from really taking that next step. So I'm pumped to see how Joe Milton does for them. I mean, those 3 teams, obviously Ohio State a notch above, but Penn State, Michigan, and I think in the West, I still like Wisconsin. You know, I know that Wisconsin probably doesn't get the national recognition that they deserve for what they've done over the last 5 to 8 years. But that brand is about as consistent as any. And I've got Minnesota playing Michigan Saturday night with PJ Fleck, so I'm kind of excited to see where they are as well.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.